Every step was agony. Every specialist failed, and hope was slipping away until a janitor's quiet observation changed everything. Welcome to my channel. If you enjoyed deep, emotional stories like this, stories that remind us of the goodness still living in this world, please take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It truly helps the channel grow, and it means more people get to experience these moments with us. This one took days to put together. Days of research, of reflection, of finding the right words to capture something real and beautiful. It's here to inspire you, to teach us all something, to remind us that miracles don't always come from where we expect them. So before we begin, don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Like the video if it touches your heart, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories that matter. Now, let me tell you about a man named Ethan Cole. There are people in this world who move through life almost invisibly. They're the ones who arrive before anyone else notices. The ones who stay late when the lights go down. They don't make speeches. They don't demand attention. They simply do the work. Ethan Cole was one of those people. Every morning at 6 a.m., he unlocked the doors of the small community center on the east side of Austin, Texas. The building wasn't fancy, scuffed floors, flickering hallway lights, bathrooms that always seemed to need something fixed. But it was his to care for. And Ethan? He cared deeply. He moved through those halls like a man who understood the language of broken things. A door that stuck in the summer humidity? Ethan knew it needed its hinges oiled and the frame planed down just a fraction. A wheelchair left in the corner with a wobbly wheel? He'd crouch down, study the axle, tighten what needed tightening, and roll it back into place, smooth as silk. People didn't really see him. Not truly. They'd nod as they passed. Offer a quick morning, Ethan, without stopping. And that was fine. Ethan didn't need to be seen. He needed things to work. He needed the center to be a place where people felt safe, where nothing broke down, where the world, just for a little while, ran smoothly. He noticed everything. The way the front door's pneumatic closer was losing pressure. The way Mrs. Patterson's walker scraped the linoleum because one rubber foot was worn down. The way the light switch in the south bathroom required just a little more force than it should. To everyone else, these were nothing. Background noise. To Ethan, they were everything. Because he understood something most people don't. The world is held together by tiny, invisible acts of attention. A screw tightened here, a hinge oiled there. It's not glamorous, but it matters. And on this particular afternoon, a sweltering July day, when the Texas heat shimmered off the asphalt like a living thing, Ethan's ability to notice what others missed would change two lives forever. It was just after 3 o'clock when the SUV pulled into the parking lot. Ethan was outside, emptying trash bins near the back entrance, his shirt already dark with sweat. He heard the engine first, luxury smooth, but laboring. Then he saw it, a massive black vehicle, chrome gleaming, windows tinted so dark you couldn't see inside. It rolled to a stop near the main entrance. The engine shut off. Then nothing. Most people would have shrugged and gone back to work. But Ethan paused. He tilted his head slightly, the way a musician might when a note sounds wrong. Something about the way that engine had sounded before it cut off. Steam began rising from under the hood. Overheated, Ethan thought. A moment later, the driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, tall, dark sunglasses, dressed in the kind of crisp business attire that didn't belong in a community center parking lot. She moved with the efficiency of someone used to solving problems quickly. She pulled out her phone, already dialing. Then the back door opened, and Ethan's attention shifted completely. A girl emerged, maybe 12, 13 years old. She had her mother's sharp features, but softened by youth. Brown hair pulled back, a face that should have been carefree but wasn't, because her legs were locked in heavy, articulated braces. Ethan had seen leg braces before. The center hosted a physical therapy group twice a week. But these were different. Clinical. Expensive-looking. Metal joints at the knees and ankles, straps running up the thighs, rigid supports along the calves. And the girl, Amelia, he'd later learn her name, moved like someone trapped inside her own body. Each step was calculated, deliberate. Her face tightened with concentration, or was it pain? She gripped a cane in one hand, her knuckles white. Her mother hovered nearby, phone still pressed to her ear, one hand reaching out instinctively, protectively. Ethan stood there, trash bag forgotten in his hand, watching. Not staring. Watching. There's a difference. He watched the way the braces moved against her legs. The way the knee joint seemed to catch slightly with each step, creating a hitch in her rhythm. The way she compensated by shifting her weight awkwardly to one side. The way her jaw clenched when she put pressure on her left leg. He knew that expression. He'd seen it on Mrs. Patterson's face when her walker wasn't adjusted right. He'd seen it in his own reflection years ago, after he'd injured his back and every movement was a negotiation with pain. His supervisor, Danny, came jogging out from the side entrance, wiping his hands on a rag.
"Ma'am.
You need some help," Danny called out, all eager customer service. The woman, Valerie, though Ethan didn't know that yet, lowered her phone. The car overheated. "I've called for a tow, but it'll be 30 minutes. Is there somewhere cool we can wait?" "Absolutely, absolutely," Danny said, already moving toward the building. "Come on inside. We got a lobby with AC, water fountain, the works."
Valerie nodded, relieved.
She turned to her daughter. "Amelia, honey, let's get you inside." Amelia took a breath, nodded, began the slow, painful process of walking toward the entrance. And Ethan couldn't look away, because he saw it now.
Clear as day.
The problem wasn't the girl. It was the braces. He shouldn't have said anything. That's what the smart, safe part of his brain told him as he stood there, trash bag still dangling from his hand. "You're a janitor, Ethan. You clean floors. You fix toilets. You don't know anything about medical equipment." But his hands knew. His hands, rough, scarred, permanently stained with grease and cleaning solution, knew about resistance, about friction, about how things were supposed to move and how they moved when something was wrong. The brace on Amelia's left leg, the way that knee joint caught and released. It reminded him of the hydraulic door closer on the north entrance. The one that had been sticking for weeks before he'd taken it apart and found the piston misaligned by just a few millimeters.
Such a tiny thing.
But it made the door fight against itself with every open and close. That's what Amelia's brace was doing. Fighting against her. Danny held the door open, all charm and helpfulness. Valerie guided Amelia through. They disappeared inside. Ethan stood in the parking lot for another moment, the Texas sun beating down on his shoulders. Then he set down the trash bag. And he followed them inside. The lobby was blessedly cool. Valerie and Amelia had settled onto one of the cushioned benches near the water fountain. Danny was still chattering away, offering snacks from the vending machine, asking if they needed anything else. Ethan hung back near the hallway entrance. He grabbed a broom from the supply closet, not because he needed to sweep, but because holding it made him look like he had a reason to be there. He swept slowly, methodically, inching closer. Amelia sat with her legs stretched out in front of her, the braces gleaming dully under the fluorescent lights. She was rotating her left ankle carefully, testing it, her face pinched with discomfort. Valerie was scrolling through her phone, texting rapidly. But even distracted, her body language screamed exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, emotional. The kind that comes from carrying worry for so long it becomes part of your skeleton. Ethan swept closer. He could see the braces more clearly now. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Precision machine joints, custom padding, adjustable straps. Thousands of dollars of engineering. Maybe tens of thousands. But the left knee joint, the alignment was off. Just slightly. The axis of rotation didn't quite match the natural movement of Amelia's knee. So every time she bent her leg, the brace pulled in one direction while her knee wanted to move in another. Subtle. Microscopic, almost. But over hundreds of steps? Thousands? It would be agony. His hands tightened on the broom handle. Say something.
Don't say something.
Say something. Don't. Excuse me. The words left his mouth before he could stop them. Valerie looked up sharply. Amelia turned her head. Ethan's heart hammered. He suddenly felt very aware of his appearance, the janitor's uniform, the sweat stains, the cleaning supplies. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said quickly, voice soft. I noticed." Valerie's expression shifted from surprise to something guarded. "Protective." "Yes." Ethan gestured vaguely toward Amelia's legs. "The braces. The left one. The knee joint. It's not moving right." Silence. Valerie blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "The alignment," Ethan continued, feeling his face flush. "The hinge where it bends. It's catching. Just a little bit. I can see it when she walks. It's fighting against the natural rotation." Valerie stared at him. Her eyes flicked to his uniform, then back to his face. "You're a janitor." It wasn't a question.
It was a statement of fact.
A dismissal. Ethan nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I am." "And you think you know something about medical-grade orthotic devices?" Her tone wasn't cruel. Just tired. So tired. Ethan swallowed.
"No, ma'am."
"I don't know anything about medicine, but I know about how things move, how they resist, how they flow. I've been fixing doors and wheelchairs and equipment in this building for 6 years. And I'm telling you, that brace is misaligned." Valerie's jaw tightened. For a moment, Ethan thought she might tell him to leave, to mind his own business. But then Amelia spoke. "Mom." Her voice was quiet, hopeful in a way that made Ethan's chest ache. "Mom, what if he's right?" Valerie looked at her daughter. And in that look, Ethan saw everything. He saw the years of specialists, the consultations, the failed treatments, the promises that didn't pan out. He saw a mother who would do anything, pay any price, travel any distance, endure any humiliation, if it meant her daughter could walk without pain. He saw desperation. And desperation, Ethan knew, sometimes made people take impossible chances. Valerie turned back to him. Her voice was careful, measured. "You think you can fix it?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "But I'd like to try." Another pause. Longer this time. Then Valerie did something that would later astonish her. She nodded. "All right," she said quietly. "Show me what you see." Ethan set down the broom. He crossed the lobby and knelt down beside Amelia's legs, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the left brace. Amelia glanced at her mother, who nodded. "Okay." Ethan's hands, those rough, calloused, endlessly capable hands, reached out and gently touched the metal framework. He traced the knee joint with his fingertips, feeling the resistance as he moved it slowly through its range of motion. "See here," he said softly, looking up at Valerie. "When the knee bends, this hinge should rotate on the same axis as her natural joint. But it's offset. Just a fraction. Maybe 2-3 millimeters. It doesn't sound like much, but it adds up," Valerie finished, her voice distant.
"God."
3 millimeters. Ethan nodded. "I'd need to adjust the mounting bracket, redistribute some of the weight. Maybe add padding in a few places to prevent the rubbing." Valerie was staring at him now, really seeing him. "You do that?" she asked. "For us?" Ethan met her eyes. "Ma'am, if there's even a chance I can help your daughter walk easier, yes, I'll do it." For the first time since they'd arrived, Valerie's composure cracked. Her eyes glistened. "What's your name?" she whispered.
"Ethan."
"Ethan Cole." "Valerie Stone. And this is Amelia." They shook hands there in the lobby of that little community center, a billionaire and a janitor, united by hope and the thinnest thread of possibility. "When can you start?" Valerie asked. Ethan glanced at the clock on the wall. His shift ended at 5. He thought about his tiny apartment, his microwave dinner, his empty evening.
"Tonight," he said.
"I can start tonight." The community center was never truly silent. Even after the last class ended and the lights in the main hall went dark, the building breathed. Pipes creaked. The old HVAC system hummed and clicked. Somewhere in the walls, the electrical wiring sang its quiet song. But at 10 o'clock that night, after everyone else had gone home, Ethan Cole sat alone in the storage room, and for the first time in years, He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The storage room wasn't much. 15 feet by 20, lined with metal shelving units packed with cleaning supplies, tools, spare parts, and forgotten equipment. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. The air smelled of dust and oil and possibility. On the workbench in front of him, a scarred piece of plywood balanced on two sawhorses, lay Amelia's leg braces. Valerie had left them reluctantly. She'd wanted to stay, to watch, but Ethan had gently suggested she take Amelia home to rest. "I work better alone," he'd said, "and this might take a while." What he hadn't said, "I need to do this without the weight of your hope pressing down on me." Because that's what hope felt like sometimes. Like weight. Like responsibility. Like the difference between fixing a door and fixing a life. He'd promised to call her in 2 days. Now, he carefully lifted the left brace and turned it under the light. Here's what most people didn't understand about Ethan Cole. His mind didn't work with words. It worked with shapes, with forces, with the invisible mathematics of how things moved through space. When he looked at that brace, he didn't see metal and plastic and screws. He saw vectors, pressure points, the elegant geometry of human motion translated imperfectly into mechanical form. He saw where it failed. The knee joint was the obvious problem, but as he studied the brace more carefully, he found others. The ankle hinge was too stiff, forcing Amelia to compensate with her hip. The calf support pressed too hard in one spot, not hard enough in another. The thigh strap created a pressure point that would have been invisible on an exam table, but agonizing after an hour of walking. How did the specialists miss this? Ethan wondered. Then he realized they hadn't missed it. They'd probably never seen it. Because specialists examined patients in offices, on exam tables, in controlled environments where everything was perfect and still. They measured angles with protractors and checked adjustments against charts and specifications. But they didn't watch. Not the way Ethan watched.
They didn't see the subtle hitch in a step.
The micro-adjustment of balance. The way pain revealed itself not in screams, but in the unconscious tightening of a jaw. Ethan had spent 6 years watching people move through this building. 6 years noticing what made movement easy and what made it hard. 6 years developing an intuition about friction and flow that no medical degree could teach. He picked up a screwdriver. And he began. The first night, he worked until 2 in the morning. He disassembled the knee joint completely, laying out each piece in careful order on a clean cloth. The main hinge, the mounting bracket, the tension spring, the locking mechanism, dozens of screws, each one cataloged by size and position. Then he examined the mounting bracket, the piece that connected the hinge to the metal frame that ran along Amelia's leg. There. The angle was wrong. Just 3 degrees off. 3 tiny degrees that meant the axis of the artificial joint didn't quite match the axis of her real knee beneath it. 3 degrees multiplied by every step she took. Every day. For years. Ethan's hands moved with absolute certainty now. He'd seen this problem before, not in a leg brace, but in the panic bar on the east emergency exit. The mechanism had been mounted at a slight angle, and every time someone pushed it, the bar twisted against itself. Metal fatiguing metal, creating resistance where there should have been smooth motion. He'd fixed it by reshaping the mounting plate. Just a few minutes with a file and a vise, correcting the angle by fractions of a degree. He could do the same thing here. He secured the bracket in a table vise, carefully, so carefully, patting it with cloth so he wouldn't mar the finish. Then he took a metal file and began to work. Slow strokes.
Precise.
Testing the angle after every few passes with a small level and a protractor he'd borrowed from the after-school program's supply cabinet. The metal dust fell like snow onto the workbench. Outside, Austin slept. Inside, a janitor worked miracles in fractions of millimeters. The second night, he focused on the ankle joint. It was too stiff. The spring mechanism that was supposed to allow natural flexion had been set too tight. Probably a safety measure to prevent the brace from collapsing unexpectedly. But it meant Amelia had to force every step, fighting against the very device that was supposed to help her. Ethan disassembled it. examined the spring, calculated tension in his head, not with numbers, but with feeling. With the memory of every door closer he'd ever adjusted, every pneumatic lift he'd ever calibrated. He replaced the spring with one from an old wheelchair in the storage room.
Softer.
More forgiving. He tested it by hand, bending and releasing, until the resistance felt right. Not too loose, not too tight, just right. Like Goldilocks, he thought, and smiled despite his exhaustion. The third night was about comfort. He'd noticed the pressure points, the places where the brace's rigid structure pressed against soft tissue. The specialists had added padding, but it was uniform. Generic. It didn't account for Amelia's specific anatomy, the unique geography of her legs. Ethan thought about Mrs. Patterson's walker again. How he'd added extra padding to one grip because her arthritis made her right hand more sensitive. How such a small change had made her face light up with relief. He gathered materials. Foam from an old exercise mat. Soft cloth from a donated bedsheet. Medical tape from the first aid kit. He built up padding in some areas, removed it in others, creating a custom landscape of support that would cradle rather than grip, hold rather than squeeze. His back ached from hunching over the workbench. His eyes burned from the harsh light. His fingers were cramped and sore. But every time he thought about stopping, he saw Amelia's face. That careful, painful walk across the parking lot. The way she'd tried to hide her discomfort. The way she'd smiled even though every step hurt. He kept working. On the morning of the fourth day, Ethan reassembled the braces completely. His hands moved with the confidence of absolute certainty now. Every screw in its proper place. Every joint aligned. Every adjustment calibrated not by measurement, but by intuition, the kind of knowing that comes from a lifetime of paying attention to how things move. When he was done, he stood back and looked at his work. To anyone else, they would have looked exactly the same. The same metal, the same straps, the same basic structure. But Ethan could see the difference. He could see it in the angle of the knee joint, now perfectly aligned. In the smooth action of the ankle hinge. In the custom padding that would distribute pressure evenly, gently. He'd transformed them from restraints into extensions. From barriers into bridges. He cleaned them carefully. Polished away his fingerprints. Laid them gently in the box Valerie had left them in. Then he pulled out his phone and sent a text to the number Valerie had given him. "They're ready." The response came within seconds. "We'll be there in an hour." Ethan waited in the lobby, the box containing the braces on the bench beside him. His stomach churned with anxiety. He'd been so certain in the storage room, so confident in the quiet hours of the night when it was just him and the work. But now, in the harsh light of morning, doubt crept in. What if you made it worse? What if you hurt her? What if you were wrong about everything? He thought about his father, who'd worked construction his whole life. Hands like hammers, back bent from decades of labor. His father had once told him, "Son, there's honest work and there's important work. Sometimes you're lucky enough to do both at once." Was this important work? Or was it the arrogance of a janitor who thought he understood things he had no business understanding? The front door opened. Valerie walked in first, moving quickly, her face tight with controlled emotion. Behind her came Amelia, using her old braces, taking those same careful, painful steps. And behind them both, to Ethan's surprise, came another person, an older man in khakis and a polo shirt, carrying a medical bag. Valerie saw Ethan's expression. "This is Dr. Reeves," she explained. "Amelia's physical therapist. I hope you don't mind. I wanted him here to make sure." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. To make sure you didn't make things worse. Ethan nodded. "Of course. That's smart." Dr. Reeves approached, extending his hand. His expression was professionally neutral, neither dismissive nor encouraging. "Mr. Cole, Valerie told me what you've been working on. I have to admit, I'm curious." That was doctor speak for skeptical, Ethan knew. "I understand," Ethan said simply. He picked up the box and opened it. "I made some adjustments. To the alignment mostly, and the tension in the joints, and added some custom padding. Dr. Reeves lifted one of the braces, examining it with a trained eye. His eyebrows rose slightly. You realigned the knee mount. Yes, sir. By eye. Yes, sir. Dr. Reeves turned the brace over in his hands, testing the knee joint, the ankle hinge. His expression remained neutral, but Ethan caught something flicker across his face. Surprise? Recognition? Finally, Dr. Reeves looked at Amelia. Would you like to try them? They helped Amelia into a chair. Valerie knelt beside her daughter, unbuckling the old braces with practiced efficiency. Her hands were shaking. Ethan stayed back, giving them space. His heart was hammering so hard he could hear it in his ears. Dr. Reeves helped fit the modified braces onto Amelia's legs. He worked slowly, methodically, checking the fit at every strap, every point of contact. How does that feel? He asked. Amelia flexed her left knee experimentally. Her eyes widened. It's different. It doesn't catch. Try the ankle. She rotated her foot. It's easier.
Softer.
Dr. Reeves glanced at Ethan. Something shifted in his expression, the professional skepticism giving way to genuine interest. Stand up when you're ready, Amelia. Take your time. Valerie stepped back, one hand pressed to her mouth. Amelia gripped the arms of the chair.
Took a breath. And stood.
The room held its breath. She stood there for a moment, weight balanced on both legs, testing. Her face was a landscape of concentration. Then she took a step. If you've never watched someone take their first pain-free step in years, you can't understand what it looks like. It looks like disbelief. Like the body not quite trusting what it's experiencing. Like someone who's been shouting finally discovering they can whisper. Amelia took one step. Her face didn't pinch with pain. She took another. The hitch in her rhythm, that subtle catch that had been there before, was gone. A third step. A fourth. And then she was walking. Actually walking. Not struggling. Not fighting. Not enduring. Walking. Valerie made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. Her knees buckled, and she grabbed the back of a chair for support, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Reeves was staring, his professional composure completely shattered. My God, he whispered. My God, look at her gait. The alignment is perfect. The stride length is natural. There's no compensation pattern. But Ethan wasn't looking at the doctor. He was looking at Amelia's face. She'd walked maybe 10 steps when she stopped and turned around. Her eyes were huge, glassy with tears that hadn't fallen yet.
Mom, she said.
And her voice cracked on that single word, splintering with emotion too big to contain. Mom, it doesn't hurt. Valerie crossed the space between them in 3 strides and pulled her daughter into her arms. And they stood there, this woman of wealth and power, reduced to trembling gratitude, holding her child while the rest of them tried not to intrude on something so private, so sacred. Dr. Reeves cleared his throat roughly. He turned to Ethan, and his eyes were wet. Mr. Cole, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've worked with some of the best orthotic engineers in the country, and I've never... He shook his head. How did you learn to do this? Ethan's own eyes were burning. He blinked hard. I pay attention to how things move. That's all. That's all, Dr. Reeves repeated softly and laughed, a sound of wonder. That's everything. They stayed for another hour. Dr. Reeves examined Amelia thoroughly, measuring her gait with professional equipment, checking and rechecking the fit of the braces. With every test, his amazement grew. The modifications are brilliant, he kept saying. Simple, but brilliant. You've eliminated the torque. Reduced the friction points. The weight distribution is perfect. Amelia walked circles around the lobby, her smile growing with each lap. She tried stairs. She tried sitting and standing. She tried everything she'd been afraid to try before. And through it all, Ethan watched quietly from the side, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Not just satisfaction from a job well done. Not just pride in his craft. But actual, bone-deep purpose. The sense that his hands, these rough, ordinary hands, had been meant for this moment all along. Before they left, Valerie pulled Ethan aside. She composed herself, wiped away the tears, rebuilt the professional mask she usually wore. But her eyes betrayed her. They were soft, grateful, raw. "I want to hire you," she said directly. "Full-time. I have companies that could use someone with your skills. Medical device R&D, product design. Name your price, Ethan. Anything." It was tempting. God, it was tempting. Ethan thought about his tiny apartment, his second-hand furniture, the way he sometimes had to choose between replacing his worn-out work boots or buying groceries. He thought about security, comfort, recognition. Then he looked past Valerie to where Amelia was demonstrating her walking to Dr. Reeves, her face bright with joy. And he thought about Mrs. Patterson and her walker, about the teenagers who used the center's donated wheelchairs, about all the people who moved through this building with bodies that didn't work quite right, using equipment that didn't fit quite right. People who couldn't afford specialists or engineers or custom solutions. People who were invisible just like he was. "I appreciate that, ma'am," Ethan said quietly. "More than you know. But I think I need to stay here." Valerie blinked. "Stay here? At the community center?" "Yes, ma'am."
"But why?"
"You could help so many more people. Reach a much larger audience. Make a real difference." Ethan smiled. A gentle, certain smile. "With respect, ma'am, I think I can make a real difference right here. There are people in this neighborhood who need help, who can't afford what you can afford. And I know this place. I know these people. I know what they need." Valerie studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "You're remarkable, Mr. Cole. You know that. I'm just a janitor who pays attention." "No," she said firmly. "You're so much more than that." But Valerie Stone hadn't built a fortune by accepting the word no. 2 weeks later, Ethan arrived at work to find that one of the unused rooms on the center's second floor had been transformed. A proper workbench, professional tools, a computer with CAD software, filing cabinets for records, shelving units for parts and equipment, even a small sign on the door. Cole Adaptive Solutions. Danny, his supervisor, met him in the hallway grinning. Ms. Stone called the center's director. Made a very generous donation. Said the only condition was that we give you space and time to do your thing. You're officially part-time janitorial. Part-time? I don't even know what to call it. Equipment specialist? Mobility consultant. Ethan stood in the doorway of his new workshop, overwhelmed. "She also set up some kind of fund," Danny continued, "for parts and materials. And get this, she's sending people here. People who need help but can't afford the fancy specialists. You're gonna have clients, man." Clients. Ethan Cole, who'd spent his whole life being invisible, was going to have clients. The first one arrived 3 days later. An elderly veteran named Marcus, whose prosthetic leg had been causing him pain for months. The VA had adjusted it twice, but it still wasn't right. Ethan spent 2 hours with him, watching him walk, listening to his body, making minute adjustments to the socket and alignment. When Marcus walked out of the center, he was crying. "First time in 6 months I've walked without pain," he said, gripping Ethan's hand. 6 months.
"Thank you, son."
"Thank you." Then came others. A woman whose wheelchair kept pulling to one side. A child with cerebral palsy whose walker was causing bruises. A construction worker with a back brace that didn't flex properly. One by one they came. And one by one, Ethan helped them. Not because he was a doctor or an engineer or an expert, but because he paid attention. Because he understood movement and resistance and the subtle ways that bodies and machines either worked together or fought against each other. Because he cared. 6 months later, Amelia came back to visit. She walked in without her cane, moving with easy confidence. She'd gained weight, the good kind, the kind that comes when you're not constantly burning energy fighting against pain. Her face was bright, unguarded. She found Ethan in his workshop, bent over a pediatric leg brace, making adjustments. "Mr. Cole," she called out. He looked up and smiled. "Amelia, how are you?" "I'm amazing." She did a little spin to demonstrate. "Look, no cane. No pain. I'm playing soccer now." Soccer. Can you believe it? Ethan's smile widened. I absolutely can believe it. She moved closer, watching him work. Mom told me what you're doing here. Helping people who can't afford the expensive places. Just trying to help where I can. Amelia was quiet for a moment. Then, you changed my life, Mr. Cole. You know that, right? Not just because you fixed my braces, but because you saw me. You actually saw me when everyone else was just looking. Ethan's throat tightened. He set down his tools. You're going to make me cry, kid. Good, she said, grinning. You should. You're a hero. I'm really not. You are to me. That night, after everyone had gone home, Ethan sat alone in his workshop. Around him were the tools of his trade. Wrenches and screwdrivers. Files and measuring tapes. Braces and wheelchairs and walkers in various states of repair. He thought about the path that had brought him here. All the years of invisible work. All the small acts of attention that no one had noticed. All the doors he'd fixed. All the hinges he'd oiled. All the wheels he'd aligned. Every single one had been preparing him for this. He picked up a framed photo that Valerie had given him, a picture of Amelia, mid-stride, running across a soccer field. Her face was pure joy. Written across the bottom in her handwriting, "Thank you for teaching me to fly." Ethan traced the words with his finger. He'd spent his whole life being the person no one saw. The one who cleaned up after others, who kept things running smoothly in the background. And now he was the person who helped others be seen. Who helped them move through the world with less pain, more dignity, more freedom. He hadn't changed who he was. He was still Ethan Cole, janitor.
Still the guy who noticed things.
Still the one who worked with his hands. But he'd found his calling. Not in cleaning floors, but in helping people stand tall. There's a lesson in Ethan's story. One that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. See, the world teaches us to measure worth by titles. By degrees and certifications and corner offices. By how much money you make or how many people know your name. But Ethan Cole proved something different. He proved that wisdom doesn't live in diplomas on walls. It lives in calloused hands that have done the same work 1,000 times and learned to do it with love. It lives in eyes that notice what others miss. It lives in the quiet patience of someone who understands that small adjustments can change everything. The doctors and specialists who'd worked with Amelia, brilliant people with years of training, they missed what a janitor saw in 3 minutes. Not because they weren't smart, but because they'd forgotten how to watch. They'd learned to measure, to analyze, to consult their charts.
But Ethan?
Ethan just paid attention. And attention, real attention, is its own kind of genius. He could have taken Valerie's offer. The money, the prestige, the corporate position. And no one would have blamed him. We all need to survive. We all want comfort. But Ethan understood something that few people do. True purpose isn't found in what benefits you most. It's found in what makes you feel most alive, most useful, most real. And for Ethan, that meant staying in a community center in Austin, Texas, working with people who couldn't afford the expensive solutions, using his gifts where they were needed most. He chose invisibility, chose service, chose to be the person who helps others shine. And in doing so, he became unforgettable. Today, Cole Adaptive Solutions helps dozens of people every month. Ethan still mops the floors twice a week. He still fixes the stuck doors and adjusts the wheelchairs. But he also transforms lives. One hinge at a time. One alignment at a time. One pain-free step at a time. Amelia visits regularly. She brings her soccer team sometimes to remind them that the people who change the world aren't always famous. Sometimes they're wearing janitor's uniforms. Sometimes they smell like cleaning solution. Sometimes they're the ones you walk past without seeing. But they're there, noticing, caring, fixing what's broken, making the world move a little more smoothly, one small act of attention at a time. And maybe that's the real miracle of this story. Not that a janitor fixed a pair of braces, but that he reminded us all to pay attention,
To see people.
to understand that expertise isn't just what you learn in classrooms, it's what you learn from truly watching how the world works. It's the wisdom of hands that have done honest work. It's the genius of eyes that notice everything. It's the courage to act when you see suffering, even when the world says you're not qualified. Ethan Cole cleaned floors, but he taught us all how to stand tall. And that's worth more than any corner office could ever be. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Like this video if it reminded you that miracles can come from unexpected places. And subscribe to this channel so we can continue bringing you stories that matter, stories that remind us of the goodness still living in this world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for paying attention. Until next time, keep noticing, keep caring, keep fixing what's broken. The world needs more people like Ethan Cole. Maybe that person is you.